This week, convicted murderer Julius Jones took a big step towards walking off of death row when the Pardon and Parole Board voted 3-1 to grant Jones clemency for the murder of Paul Howell in 1999, a decision that angered Howell's family, but was embraced by longtime supporters of Jones. Jason Doyle joined us now on what will happen next. Jason.
The fate of Julius Jones is now in the hands of Governor Stitt, who will decide to either take the Pardon and Parole Board's recommendation or not before Jones' scheduled execution on November 18th.
My name is Julius Jones, and this is the first chance that I've had in over 20 years to talk about what happened and where I was on the night Mr. Paul Howell was senselessly murdered.
Monday's clemency hearing was the first opportunity the public has been given to hear from Julius Jones himself since he was put on trial for the murder of Paul Howell in 2002.
I want to be clear about two things. First, I feel for the Howell family and for the tragic loss of Mr. Paul Howell, who I've heard was a caring and all-around good person and father. Second, I am not the person responsible for taking Mr. Howell's life. I was not involved in the planning of this robbery. I was not present during this robbery, and I did not know that anyone had been killed until the day after Mr. Howell was murdered.
After reading his statement, Jones was questioned by board member Richard Smotherman, a former prosecutor, about the letters he wrote to witnesses ahead of the trial.
If you do get called to the stand, and this is November 21st of 1999, your best bet is to say you don't remember unless you don't care about me coming home. You agree you wrote that letter, sir?
Yes, sir. But the reason I said what I said was because I was attempting to try to shield her from what I know she was afraid of.
Okay.
It was ill-advised in my youth, but I was not threatening her.
You can certainly see how that looks like you're trying to get her to coach or change her testimony. You can see how that might be read that way, correct?
Yes, sir.
Smotherman says he felt it was necessary to question Jones to make sure relevant information was being considered ahead of the vote.
You know, the governor sent this back to us to hear from Mr. Jones and to flesh this out more thoroughly. And I think we've done that, and I appreciate both sides.
No other board member asked a direct question about the 1999 homicide case, but they did express their thoughts that Jones deserved mercy.
As I stated last month, I continue to believe that there is doubt in this case in which the ultimate punishment should not be utilized. So I'm yes for clemency.
There is a huge disparity in the sentencing, and to give one person 15 years and then execute the second one, there is something inherently wrong in that decision.
However, the lone no vote against clemency did not agree with the other board members' assessments.
To believe in Mr. Jones's theory of the case, you have to disbelieve every other piece of evidence in the case. Everything. Law enforcement, independent witnesses, other witnesses, you just have to, and the physical evidence.
Despite Smotherman's argument, the 3-1 vote turned out in Jones' favor, recommending life with the possibility of parole, a decision that did not sit well with the Howell family.
Now we look forward to meeting with Governor Stitt. We feel confident that the governor knows the truth and is familiar with the transcript, and that he respects the rule of law, the function of the jurors in Oklahoma, and the appellate courts that reviewed this case for almost 18 years and all unanimously affirmed it.
Paul Howell's brother, Brian Howell, believes the Pardon and Parole Board came to Jones' clemency hearing with a preconceived outcome.
I think their votes for clemency personally came from this anti-death penalty, that they were going to vote for clemency no matter what the facts presented. And the facts have been, are, and always will be overwhelming.
Brian Howell says Julius Jones was made to appear by his supporters that he was a victim of the system, despite the evidence during his trial which led to his being sentenced to death.
We are saddened that our tragedy has been used by so many that choose to assume, without any fact-checking whatsoever, the worst of jurors, law enforcement, and the prosecutors who bravely and tirelessly have sought justice for Paul and our family.
And the Howell family expressed that the Pardon and Parole Board did not question Jones enough about his version of that fatal night.
2 questions.
That was
2.
it. Yep.
20 years, 2 questions to him. That was embarrassing to me, personally. I empathize with the Howe family because they were told the truth again today. And it's not easy when you've been told half-truths for over 22 years.
The Howell family's anger contrasting with the jubilation of Jones supporters.
I first want to thank God. I want to thank God because he showed me this day. It's not over, but he showed me this day.
Jones' sister, Antoinette Jones, said it was the first time she had heard details about the murder case from her brother.
And I will admit right now today that I had never heard what my brother stated today because we've never talked about the events of what happened.
She's pleading with the public to encourage Governor Stitt to follow the clemency recommendation.
Everybody that's watching this, I encourage you to call our honorable Governor, Kevin Stitt, and ask him, tell him to commute Julius' sentence to time served, to commute his sentence to the recommendation of the Pardon and Parole Board, which was life with the possibility of parole.
As of early Friday afternoon, Governor Kevin Stitt had not announced if he would accept the board's recommendation and spare Jones' life. Visit oeta.tv/Oklahoma News Report for any updates. And coming up later in our in-depth segment, we'll discuss Oklahoma's death penalty and procedures with moderator Susan Cadeau and her guests.